All right, speaking of West Philippine Sea, may bagong billboard si Risa Hontiveros, sinend mo sa akin. Ano yan? Anong drama?
Well, there were several billboards na lumabas ngayon sa EDSA together with Manny Pacquiao, Risa Hontiveros, and other NGOs, basically calling for Filipinos to support the frontliners in the West Philippine Sea, fishermen and Coast Guard, and then asking them to join a convoy next month going to BRP Sierra Madre for an early Christmas. No? A Christmas convoy bringing gifts to Coast Guards and the soldiers in BRP Sierra Madre. So I think it's going to be an interesting convoy.
Very interesting.
Because they're going to design the boats as Christmas boats with parol, with Christmas lights, with Christmas trees, with Belen, no, with the child in the manger, etc. And then full of media, full of fishermen, full of youth leaders, no, going there. Actually, mahihirapan ang China. Pag hinarangan nila, they will look bad. Pag pinadaan nila, talo sila. No? So it's a dummy to do strategy. At yung billboards, I think part of the campaign. No? Ang problema ay binabanatan si Risa for early campaign. Pero he's not running for the midterms.
Wait,
no, so what
he's
early
just
campaign?
one kapubuan ng early campaign.
What
like,
early campaign, no? What early campaign?
2028? This is crazy.
So, nakakatawa. Pero hindi mo naman kinakailangan ng reason. Hindi mo naman kinakailangan ng logic para mag-bash. So, yun yung nangyayari.
Well, okay, before we go to the operational military aspect of this, of course, I wrote just a piece on this on latest satellite imagery that shows significant improvements across EDCA. Let's just stick to this issue of Risa. It's very interesting, no? Now it looks like Risa right now is kinda like Justice Carpio times Pinoy times, you know, so like she's becoming like the embodiment of the West Philippine Sea fight, yung parang Mother Philippines type. I mean, in a sense that you're mainstreaming this, making it like an everyday issue, right? Like parang household issue na yung West Philippine Sea, right? Not in terms of urgency. Of course, it's not the same level of inflation or employment. I understand it, but it's like West Philippine Sea right now is an everyday issue in ways that was unthinkable not long ago, diba? I mean, this is quite interesting. I mean, Ronald, did you ever think in your lifetime that this will happen? And then you also mentioned something very interesting. They're gonna make this very festive geopolitics, right? It's but I kind of thinking of those nuns that put flowers in the gun of, you know, during Risa or during yung mga revolution in Latin America, you know. It's a very interesting way of soft power talaga, no? Soft power but high stakes soft power.
Because how do you confront the biggest navy in the world? How do you confront the biggest armed forces in the world? No? Then you use their weight against them. And one thing we are strong with is culture. No? Where religion is also part of culture. So, hindi ko ma-imagine how the Chinese will respond, how the Chinese Navy will respond to a convoy of boats, no? Fishing vessels, na palibot ng parol, palibot ng Christmas lights, may Christmas tree. Some of them will even be bringing Santa Claus, and then gifts, no? Gifts on the bow of the ship. So, di ba? Pag hinarang nila yan, magagalit ang mga Pinoy. Pag pinadaan nila, para naman silang talo dun sa issue ng ayungin ng BRP Sierra Madre, na for now, galit na galit sila. No? Kaya, it's a good tactic. It's a good tactic. No? Tingin ko it's a win-win situation for those who organize this project.
Right.
Si Risa, from the past 6 years naman talaga, critical siya sa China. Di ba? For the past 6 years, siya yung front line ng criticism against China. At nitong nakaraang taon, galit na galit siya sa kanya yung China dahil publicly, she met the president of Taiwan. Di ba? Naka 5-6 yata na diplomatic protest yung China sa ating DFA for that trip alone, no? Dalawa, siya lang ang practically nag-iisang oposisyon sa Senate. At ikatlo, dito sa engagement si Sara, kung si Congresswoman Castro ang frontline sa Congress, sa Senate, si Risa yung frontline. No? Kaya, in a way, logical yung narrative na ito for her.
Amazing, no? We have all these strong women at the very forefront. No, I'm just so proud to say that as a man, that I come from a country where it's really our Amazon, really this Amazon woman, like really strong women, both
Yeah.
upper house, lowers. I'm really proud and I'm really happy with that. As a Filipino, I think that's what makes us really special in so many ways. Now, obviously, aside from doing this public diplomacy, this festive diplomacy, soft power diplomacy, we're doing things that are also not very soft, right? Let's talk about the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. Let's talk about things we're doing on the ground to actually enhance our position. Now, speaking of enhanced, let's talk about the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. There is a new report by the Asian Maritime Transparency Initiative, by the CSIS in Washington, D.C. Of course, for transparency purposes, I do also contribute to them. And I've also written on the latest analysis. So the title is More Than Meets the Eye. So hindi ito pa-cute lang, papogi lang. Marami nangyayari. And if you're China, you have more than just the flotilla and the festive diplomacy to worry about. You have many different sites to worry about. So if you're in China right now, you should be very, very worried if you read this report. So base sa reports na yan, dun sa 9 different bases on EDCA, actually many developments have been happening. The most developed so far is in Basa Air Base sa may Pampanga na hindi ganun kalayo sa Panatag Shoal, at siya po ay nag-receive ng $66.57 million from the United States for the improvement of a whole host of projects, including humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, command and control infrastructure, fuel storage, runaway improvements, and aircraft parking. Of course, that will be very important just in case there'll be contingency and all, magpadala ka ng mga aircrafts. We also see a lot of improvement in Bautista Air Base na malapit naman dyan sa Spratlys or Calayan group of islands. But yung Balabac Island po, nagkakaroon na rin, nearby to, nasa Palawan din to, nagde-develop na rin po tayo ng isang multi-kilometer long runway already. So much is going on. And of course, in the north of the Philippines, there are now conversations also about the U.S. Help building port facilities in Batanes, in addition to the military sites that will be developed dyan sa Cagayan and Isabela. So, whoa, a lot of things are happening. And as I argue, if you are China right now, you have to figure out you have to figure out anong i-prioritize mo dyan, in a sense that, like if you press the Philippines here like a balloon, we could expand somewhere else, right? So there's so much room for negotiations here. I think this shows if the Philippines takes the initiative, it gives the leverage to us. So now we can talk to the Chinese and say, bubulin mo kami sa West Philippine Sea, lagot kayo sa amin sa Taiwan, gusto namin mga Amerikano, bubulin namin nyo kami dito. So I think now, again, this is not to praise BBM or anything like that, but in fairness, the Philippines is in quite a sweet spot. No, Ronald? I mean, you and I, of course, as progressives, I don't relish us relying on any foreign powers, and I don't want us to rely on any foreign powers. But this cooperation on EDCA is giving us some space, some room for maneuver with China, no? Or even perhaps more than that.
Well, Richard, may distinct location kasi tayo sa lahat ng nangyayari ito. First, dahil sa history, tayo talaga yung pinakamatagal ang relasyon sa Amerika. Even if we started on an invasion where a huge number of Filipinos were killed, no? Historically, tayo yung pinakamatagal na naging colony at na naging kaibigan ng US, even if it's not necessarily to our advantage, no? Ikalawa ay kung titignan mo lahat ng surveys, no? Rightly or wrongly, ay very friendly ang mga Pilipinos sa US, no? Even during the time of Duterte, no? Even during the height ng ating anti-US struggle during the dictatorship, most Filipinos ay malapit pa rin sa Amerika, or very friendly, especially since there are about more than 5 million Filipinos living in the US, no? At ikatlo, nangyari itong 9-dash line. Nangyari itong 10-dash line. Nangyari itong artificial islands. Nangyari itong aggression sa ating EEZ, kaya nagsampa tayo ng kaso. No? We're the only country na nagsampa ng kaso sa UNCLOS and won. No? And won. No? Kaya itong mga variables na ito, ay tingin ko puts us in a very not only strategic location but in a very sweet location vis-a-vis the Americans. No? Ngayon, yung pinag-uusapan nating EDCA is related to three different issues. One, yung ating claim sa West Philippine Sea, ating EEZ na tawag ni Gibo, Secretary Gibo Chodoro, is a creeping invasion. No? Ikalawa, the freedom of navigation
Which
issue.
goes back to Ramos, actually. Just to be fair, President Ramos himself would raise that term. So it's not...
Yes. Ikalawa, yung freedom of navigation issue. No? Na not necessarily within our EEZ. No? Nasama sa, sa gitna ng South China Sea. At ikatlo, yung Taiwan. No? Yung first 5 EDCA, clearly is in relation with our claims sa West Philippine Sea. Diba? Yung sumunod na mga EDCA sites and possibly more is more mixed. No, it's in relation to the three issues of our claims in the West Philippine Sea, the freedom of navigation in the most or one of the most significant waterways in the world, at ikatlo yung Taiwan. No? Kaya mix yung aking feelings dun sa bases o yung EDCA bases sa Isabela at sa Cagayan, no? These landlocked provinces na clearly mas in relation sa Basa Strait, no? Mas in relation sa possibility of a war in Taiwan, no? Yun yung doon ako may ambivalence, doon ako may reservations, no? Yun yung nangyayari.
Yun nga, pansin ka, actually, bati ako rin medyo ambivalent ako because I'm not gonna vouch. Ganito kasi, Ronald, my sense is, this is not presentism in the sense that thinking, oh, because panahon natin yan, this is a special panahon. But I think it is. I think, Ronald, after more than 100 years of being either America's colony or semi-colony or protectorate, ito na yung chance natin to be a kind of a self-respecting semi-power of our own. And ally can say no and yes, depending on what serves us. And my sense is Marcos can make the most out of this. Whether he can make the most out of this in our question, but I think we are in a sweet spot. Yun yung sense ko talaga ngayon. If you now you say you're from the Philippines, we're talked about. I mean, that's the reason why I'm going around and talking, right? Because for 6 years, I was just going around explaining what Tatay was saying, right? Like that was my job. Now that antics is gone, I'm really talking about serious stuff. Like what are the operational implications? What can we do in EDCA, strategic stability? So as a Filipino, I feel we're taken more seriously than ever, right? And as a Filipino, I think there's a lot of room for autonomous action and maneuver here. And I think if we play the EDCA card well, meaning, as I call it, Goldilocks, meaning not too much American presence to undermine our sovereignty and provoke China, but also not too small to make it irrelevant, right? If EDCA is just a bunch of skeletal bases here and there, then wala rin silbi yan, diba? So we have to find that right balance, and also right balance of between how can we protect our interests more urgently sa West Philippine Sea, while at the same time being prepared for contingencies in Taiwan. That's very difficult. So my question to you, Ronald, is do you think there are enough of smart people out there right now for the president to make the right call, or in theory, do you think we have enough strategic thinkers aside, of course, than yours truly?
Well, Richard, kaya maganda itong kahit kasi simula lang, kahit medyo tahimik lang, maganda itong effort na ginagawa nila Senator Risa Hontiveros, Father Edicio de la Torre, no, Ka-Uper, the Vice Chairman of the Anti-Poverty Commission, itong si Manny Pacquiao, etc. No? Itong kanilang convoy, itong Christmas convoy, itong kanilang yung ginagawa ni Noel Cabangon to organize a concert on the West Philippine Sea, itong mga billboards na nagsulputan, itong plano ng Student Alliance, no? SCAP, Student Council Alliance of the Philippines, to do a caravan on major schools to explain our victory in UNCLOS, to to explain our entitlement sa West Philippine Sea, no? At other activities, no? Gagawa sila ng animation, no? 3 minutes animation, West Philippine Sea UNCLOS for beginners, na hindi pa nagawa before. So, maraming moving parts, yung tahimik na nangyayari ngayon. Meron, kung alam mo, last week, nagkaroon ng rally nationwide ang RAM, Reformed Armed Forces Movement, sa Chinese Embassy, no?
Wow.
These are ex-soldiers, no? Nagrally sila.
People.
Yung Magdalo, gustong sumama ngayon dito sa koalisyon ng atin ito, nila Risa. Yung One Sambayanan ay nagkukan din sila ngayon, no? They're trying to link up with this emerging coalition. Tapos may mga group na mga yacht owners, catamaran owners na gustong sumama do sa convoy ng fishermen. It's beginning to look like a Dunkirk project going to Ayungin. So, yung mga yan will hopefully create not only a critical mass of Filipinos na nauunawaan itong issue na ito, unlike in the past, kung hindi pwedeng magkaroon ng isang sustained effort na hindi lang tayo dependent sa EDCA, hindi lang tayo dependent sa military exercises. Magkaroon talaga ng organizing, magkaroon talaga ng education movement, magkaroon talaga ng series of actions, no, mostly cultural, no, to unite the Filipino, no, on the issue of the West Philippine Sea, on UNCLOS, on Chinese aggression. Para hindi naman tayo puro na lang military exercises, puro na lang EDCA bases, puro na lang exchanges with the West, no. Magkaroon din tayo ng sariling strength. Tingin ko yun yung agenda nitong mga initiator, nitong atin ito movement. Nasa ngayon, nagsisimulang maging popular yung sign. Yung sign is just 3 fingers, W. No? So tingin ko this will be a household sign. No? Tingin ko this is just the start of something beautiful, no? Something not only nationalistic, but something which is sustainable and very progressive. Kaya hindi lang tayo mag-rely sa narrative ng EDCA, hindi lang tayo mag-rely sa narrative ng military exercises, hindi lang tayo mag-rely sa narrative ng emerging Taiwan conflict. No? Magkakaroon tayo ng sariling agenda.
Yeah, I'm speaking of this. I mean, Ronald, essentially we're talking about the whole of nation approach, right?
Yes.
I mean, it cannot be just left to the DFA. This cannot just be left to the Philippine Coast Guard. It cannot be just left to Bongbong Marcos or the whole Tambaluslos drama. This has to be a whole of nation approach. So in that sense, we're mainstreaming something that should be dear to all of us, no? And just to be clear about it, yung mga bakery forum analysis na 7% lang naman nagsabi na urgent yung West Philippine Sea. That doesn't mean that 7% only care about West Philippine Sea. That's quite a dumb spin, right? Because it just means it's not they're concerned today and tomorrow morning. That doesn't mean they care, right? So doon mo makikita talaga na medyo pre-barangay level pa rin yung analyst.
But that's also partly true dahil hindi ganun karami nakakaunawa sa ating UNCLOS victory. Di ba? Hindi ganun karami kaya nakikita natin yung contradiction na napakaraming Pinoy ang critical sa China against Chinese aggression pero popular pa rin si Digong na clearly pro-China. So meron pa rin dysfunction di ba? Ang kulang diyan is the politicalization, the education, the explanation. Kaya maganda na gagawa sila ng animation, cartoons about the West Philippine Sea na 2 to 3 minutes. Dahil beyond that, wala na manonood. Wala na manonood.
And then
symbols.
Isa-slice din nila katulad ng ginagawa natin.
Yes.
Now, to close on this note, I mean, I have, of course, another show program where, I interview people. Hindi ko pa na-interview yung Chinese and American ambassador. Yung Chinese parang wag na lang alpas on that. Yung American ambassador quite soon. Pero na-interview ko yung mga ibang ambassadors, no? India, France, Britain, Ireland. Ang dami ko na-interview. And to be honest, ang feeling ko, ang dami natin pwedeng aasahan na partners na hindi dating colonial master natin, na hindi superpower na gusto lang nila their way or highway. Yung mga middle power na medyo ka-level natin, medyo kaya natin kausapin at the same level wavelength at pwede maging very beneficial sa akin. I mean, sa atin, no? I mean, sa atin. In a sense that, I mean, we can get I mean, the French are offering submarines. No, the British are offering all sorts of intelligence and training. The Koreans and Japanese are offering us maritime security, coast guard capability. The Indians are giving us BrahMos supersonic missile, and then the Indonesians and Malaysians want to have more naval exercises with us. The Singaporeans are also offering us more surveillance. So actually, ang dami natin options. It's a huge menu. So it's not like just 2 elephants and we're a grass. There's like 2 elephants, there's 3 zebras, there's a lion, there's a tiger. It's a zoo. It's an interesting zoo with many options. So I think this idea of pro-China, Amboy, China boy, it's dumb because it's a buffet, right? It's a la carte. I call it. Let's call it. It's an a la carte diplomacy. We can do a la carte diplomacy and go whichever way we want, right? So I just feel there's so much more we can do, and this is really my approach. Kaya yung mga bobo na nagtawag na amboy, like, you don't know what you're talking about, right? I'll slap all around, no? Kasi kahapon nasa Singapore ako, binash-bash ko yung mga nandun sa China and Singapore, you know? Like, kawawa sila sa akin. But I made sure I don't violate laws in Singapore. And na-shock sila, as in they were shocked. Kasi pag ako binabash kita sa Twitter, all my followers will bash you after me. So there's like locking their account. Diba? Tapos sabi ko, baka gusto mo itag ko yung mga kaibigan mo dito sa Manila na bakery forum para tulungan ka. You know, but the script is exactly the same. But anyway, let's close this episode because I think it sets the tone for our next episode, which is, I think the Philippines has to also play a greater role as one of the leaders in the developing world, in the global south, in the ASEAN. And President Marcos Jr., surprise, surprise, is going to be on travel soon again, very soon. But I think this one makes sense. He's going to Saudi Arabia, which is not too far from where the major conflict of the moment is happening, and it's going to be an ASEAN Gulf Arab countries interaction. I think it's a perfect time for Southeast Asia and West Asia to come and talk together. So we'll have a separate episode on that. That one is going to be much more serious and intense. So don't expect na R&R mode all the time. But thank you very much again, Secretary Llamas, for this fascinating discussion.
Thank you.
Salamat. Okay.